We made it to the chordata. This is chordates. This is where we actually are. Now, this class is called invertebrate zoology, so we're not going to cover the vertebrates in any detail. That would be a vertebrate zoology class, or let's see, we have things like herpetology, for example, that would go that way. And paleozoology covers a lot of vertebrates in addition to the invertebrates, if you're interested in more of that stuff. But we're going to cover the rest of the chordates, and most of the chordates are nothing like us. In fact, we're kind of unusual. And so let's have a look. First of all, here are your videos, beautiful videos. So we're going to start out, I'm going to show you a couple of Hemichordates, and I think I don't have any videos for the Hemichordates, or else I stuck them in a different folder. I can't remember. But yeah, they don't look that interesting, and the videos are just of individuals burrowing in the sand rather than any interesting behavior. But the ones we're going to look at here are going to be the Tunicates, and so these are all beautiful Tunicates, and then Larvaceans, which are a kind of tunicate that sort of stays in a larval state its entire life. It just gets into a big larva rather than going through a metamorphosis. Tunicates go through an amazing metamorphosis. Really cool. Star Ascidians are another branch of these, and they also go through a metamorphosis. So in the lecture, we're going to go Tunicates and Larvaceans, then Star Ascidians, and so I would look at them in that order. And then we're going to go down here to the Cephalic Chordates, which are very much like us. They look like human embryos or like tiny little fish, and they just live out their lives that way. Famous one is called Amphioxus, and it's also Branchiostoma floridae, I believe, is also going to be in this group. So check those out, and yeah, you'll like them. These are neat little things. Particularly, I think the Tunicates. The predatory tunicate is pretty amazing looking. These giant colonial pyrosomes are really awesome looking. Just see one of those coming at you underwater. Wow, just massive. And the development. Pay really close attention to the development, because you can see these things turning from something very much like a human embryo into something totally unrecognizable. But it goes through the same early stages as us, and that's part of how we know that they are related to us. So let's go into the first section here. There's only 5 slides, and let's turn on the subtitles. There we go. Okay, this is from a paper about the Star Ascidian called Bertrilus schlosseri. There we go. And so they did a really nice family tree, and so rather than show it later in that section, I thought I would put it up here just to give you an idea where everything is. So the things we're going to cover today, in the first section, we're going to look at the Hemichordates. So they're going to be over here. So they are actually a sister group to the echinoderms. And down here you can see Xenoturbella. So these are the Xenacoelomorphs down on this branch. And so they're the sister group to all of this stuff, all of the Ambulacraria and Hemichordata. Yeah, Hemichordata we're going to look at. So these are, they have some similarities to chordates, but they actually belong in their own phylum, and they're located way over here on the family tree. And we would say that everything downstream of this little branch right here, the 0.94, which means 94% support branch, these are all what are considered chordates. And so in this group, you've got your vertebrata. These are things with bones like us. And so we're going to have, like a rabbit and a mouse and a person and a chicken and so on. There's a frog down there and some fish. You got your Cephalochordates, which are going to look like primitive chordates. They're sort of like an embryo for life. So here's our branchiostoma, and here's our asymmetron. And these are both going to be, we're going to cover these right at the end, because anatomically they are very similar to vertebrate embryos that don't grow up, but we're going to hit the tunicates in the middle. And so Tunicata is broken up into several different groups. You've got your Ascidians here, like your Star Ascidians, and so there's that branch down here. You've got your pyrosomes are going to be down in this area, and your dolioliths, I think is how we say that, are going to be down here, if I've got those right. And so let's have a look at all of these. So first of all, the Hemichordata. So these things are going to have something like a spinal cord They're going to have their nerves all bundled into one. So we've seen in most kind of animals, they will have a left main nerve and a right main nerve, or quite often they'll have two running, like a left top, left dorsal, and left ventral, and a right dorsal and right ventral. So it's oftentimes split into 2 or 4. With chordates, we just take all 4 of those and basically combine them into one, and then send branching nerves off at each little juncture. So it's a different way to do things, but it's basically just reorganizing the same parts all into one little bundle. Now, there are 2 main kinds of these hemichordates. One are called pterobranchs, and they're related to an ancient kind of creature called a graptolite that are only known from fossils, but we now think that these are probably the same thing. So they've been around for a long time, since the Ordovician, which is going to be something like 490 million years ago, that sort of vicinity. And so pterobranchs look like this. You're going to have individuals up here, and each individual is going to resemble in some ways, so it's going to have little feeding tentacles on arms, so kind of like a brachiopod or maybe like a bryozoan. Each one's going to have its own little mouth, but then instead of just sharing food through pore plates the way a bryozoan would, these things actually share a common digestive system. So they're going to send all of their... This tissue down here is actually going to do some of the digestion for the entire colony, and they're going to be sharing nutrients this way. So it's basically got many individuals here at the end of the chains, but they're all going to share one common bit of tissue that joins them together. It's like one intestine, many heads, something like that. Kind of the opposite of that ramacillus worm that we covered during the annelids. So here are some beautiful pictures of the other kind. So in addition to those pterobranchs, which are like a colonial version, or like a many-headed maybe version of a hemichordate, you have these solitary hemichordates. And these guys are called enteroneusts. That's Enteropneusts. Enteroneusts. And here's some nice little light micrographs of them. And I think we've got an anatomical breakdown of them coming up. But what they have is a set of gills that are going to be in the middle. The part up here is going to be the head. Here's the actual mouth. Their intestines are actually going to go all the way down. Their anus basically comes out at the tip of the tail. And so proper chordates, real chordates, not hemichordates, are going to have a tail that continues for some distance after the anus comes out. So the notochord and spinal cord will essentially go a little bit further in general. All right, and so yes, these are their lovely little parts, and you can see they're covered in cilia, and they have this sort of collar area right around the top. And let's look at the next bit. All right, so this is looking at some of their organs. So let's take this apart. Let's see, and we've got nice little keys over here. So there we go. PS is going to be the proboscis. Fine, and so that's going to be for sticking out and feeding, basically. The PB is the proboscis. And the PS is the proboscis stem, so it's going to be behind the proboscis. So proboscis is going to be up here, this sort of blue thing. Proboscis stem is going to be down there. And then let's see, CC is going to be the collar cord. Okay, and so I think that is the one that takes the place of the nerve cord. It's not really a dorsal nerve cord as you would find in chordates. It's lacking a support rod underneath it, which is something that you're going to see in proper chordates. Down here, I believe in the green, we're going to be looking at the guts, essentially. Let's see, we've got GP, let's find that. Oh, sorry, this is the respiratory system. GP are the gill pores, so the gills are going to be located in the middle, and they're actually little slits or little holes in the side of the creature. So you can see a couple of them here where there's a little pinch in the body. And that's where it's going to exchange water. And so this is going to be equivalent to our lungs, or the gills on a fish, if you like. And the stuff up here would be equivalent to the head, basically, of a fish or like a vertebrate chordate. And then we've got our esophagus down here. That's great. And then let's see, GL and GP, glomerulus and gill pore, yes, still. And what's the big red thing? It's TR, which is the trunk. Okay, so trunk, the rest of the trunk organ, I believe, is going to be the major digestive organ in here. And it's going to end at that little anus. And yeah, so they're going to slurp in food through that mouth, and they are going to then digest the good parts out of it and move on. So these are going to live most of their life buried in the sand. You can dig them up in various tropical places. Here's just a really cool picture where you can see some of the, pardon me, musculature and nerves in one of these creatures. All right, so, pardon me. Okay, so we're going to see muscle staining, and so that's going to be with phalloidin, and that's going to be in red. We're going to see cilia, and that's going to be in sort of a dark red, ultra infrared, if you like. And antitubulin, I believe the tubulin is going to be in green. And so you can get kind of a picture of it. So up here, we've got all these nerves in the proboscis. So these are, and nerves and muscles, rather, up here in the proboscis. These are going to, be controlling the proboscis. And all the parts of the body of this can move around and change shape. And so you're going to have muscle rings. So we're showing the muscles here in yellow. And so you see we've got these little bands of muscles going around, and we've got long muscles that stretch all the way out. And this essentially just lets the little enteronoose control every part of its shape. It can squish and it can stretch. Shown down here are the individual nerves in that section. So these would be the nerves up there in the proboscis. And you'll see little ganglia of different colors marked out here. And then there are a lot of these little ganglia that are going to be in the center. This is around where the trunk is going to be and where the gills, yeah, there we go, the gill slits, the way they breathe. And so that's essentially what the organism looks like on the inside. So I just thought that was nice. Gives you a little picture of it, a little better picture anyway than we could have got otherwise. All right, that's the end of that section.